All right, we start the recording and we're gonna go live. I need to click twice, so I click on the go live. All right, so we have several people. Okay, the list is growing. We have several people joining. Okay, which is really nice. So as usually, let's do a quick testing. So if you guys can hear me, just make an emoji. All right, awesome. I can see some emojis over there. Perfect. And I see even Ryan with the hands up. So you okay? All right. So we will start the 13th event. It's a LinkedIn audio event. The name of the event is iSketch. Oh, actually, it's from iSketch to AI Catch and 3D Revolution. My name is Sandu Baciu. I'm the host for this event. We're gonna have very cool, interesting discussion today. We're gonna focus, as you probably noticed from the previous events, we try to be as mixed as possible, covering as many industries as possible. On this event, we'll try to cover the medical field, which will be quite interesting. I have with me two invites. I have Brigitta and I have also Dr. Vernon, which I will ask them to present themselves, and after that I will present myself also, and we're going to start with a quick introduction. So Brigitta, would you like to introduce yourself?
Okay, I make a quick one, and the background that's interesting for today is that I've been in the coaching industry for 30 plus years and is an pioneer in the coaching industry. So I started the first ICF accredited coaching school back in Sweden, and I am always an early adopter. So in November last year, I heard about the AI. I was on the ChatGPT in the early December, and since then, since I was so early, I have had access to all the new updates, and the final thing is the code interpreter that will really change the world. And why I am here today is that my mission now, and this came up since I had one of the authority in my uh, branch told me AI will not interfere in the coaching industry, and that was a really trigger for me. And I will show you that if to revolutionize the coaching industry, and it will reverse the mental illness to mental health, and also that will affect the physical conditions. So I think that's why I'm here, and I have spent thousands of hours just to learn how the ChatGPT and or the AI tool is working, to find a new structure. How do we do to implement the AI in an unconventional branch or method or area? So I think that's why I am here today. Thank you for the time here, and I'm so honored and pleased to be here, I must say.
Thank you, Brigitta. Thank you very much. Dr. Vernon, if you'd like to introduce yourself.
Hello, my name is Vernon Ruffin, and I am an associate professor at a university, and I am also an entrepreneur. I have one of the first minority neuroscience training programs, and I basically, speaking of unconventional, was in the institution, and my love for science and research just exploded beyond work hours. And I decided to create my own lab, so I actually have a physical lab space, and this platform seems to be growing. It's both virtual and in person. We also have other branches in Atlanta and in Connecticut. And I see AI being used to help facilitate the training of students and also in research. And AI just personally has helped me streamline my process, allowing me to do things that I would actually have to fight students more or less to get them to do. So I'm looking forward to this conversation. Thank you all for being here, and I also am honored to be here. So thank you.
Thank you. All right, and about me, a lot of people probably already heard it before. My name is Sandu Baciu. I'm a civil engineer by trade. Right now, I'm actually nearby an airport, and I have an F-15 flying around me, which is really cool. My background is not only on the civil engineering. I do have architectural degrees as well. A lot of design behind, and also industrial design. I did a bunch of stuff back in the in the 90s. The other thing for this particular meeting, I like to come with some technicalities. We like to have it as possible interactive, as much as possible interactive. We like people to come on stage with us. On the bottom right, you're gonna see a hand, like Leonard saw it. Please click on that hand, and I can bring you with us here on the stage. When you come on the stage, highly possible the microphone is muted. It means it's got a line over the microphone. When we're gonna have our discussion, I will ask you guys also to cross the mic so we can hear you. And also the third invite is Stefan. Stefan join us as well. Stefan, would you like to make a quick introduction about yourself? And after that, we're gonna jump into the meeting.
Hi, Sandy. Yeah, hi everyone as well. I'm Stefan Minas. I'm the co-founder of Sherpa AI. Really happy to be here again. I'm starting to look forward to these weekly Thursday discussions. So at Sherpa AI, we've created the world's first social network only for AI. So if you were to visit our site, you'll see a lot of posts. It looks something similar to Twitter. However, there's no humans posting whatsoever. It's all AI talking to each other. So there's been some interesting interactions from that.
Yeah, very, very interesting. Thanks, Stefan, to joining us. So, as usually, I need to make another small announcement. Tomorrow, Friday, we actually have another, at the same time, like today, we have also another really interesting discussion for creative creators with AI. It's actually John's and Christine Potter event, but I'm also invited, and even Brigitta is invited to be as hostess over there. So feel free to join us in that discussion as well. I just want to make sure I'm mentioning that. And also I need to mention that a lot of people, they ask me if this event can be recorded. So I'm recording also this event. I know some people, being on Thursday and on different time zones, some people cannot attend, but they really like to have all this discussion information, capture it. We try to put all the notes and comments and the information, links to different AI platforms into the comments. But of course, when you have the discussion, it's more interactive and you'll find more interesting things. So therefore, I'm trying to have this event recorded. So the event typically is used in three parts. We talk about the innovation, we talk about the news with AIs, and we talk about the 3D revolution, which we're gonna keep it toward the end. So as a quick introduction for me, I was thinking, okay, there are happening so many things with AI, and the name of the event is From AI Sketch to AI Catch and 3D Revolution. Basically, how you can improve your skills on sketching something, and from that idea which you have in your mind and using AI, how that can be enhanced and be produced with a new revolutionary way of rendering, for example. And yes, you can do that with Midjourney, but I think we are beyond that. Right now, pretty much everybody can do a really nice image as long as you have some prompt skills, and the Midjourney and equivalent softwares, they try to implement all this natural language. So basically, as I'm speaking, you can put your prompt over there, you can use doodle references, and you can have a good image. And I think that is gonna be more accurate and more accurate, because in the past they have some challenges. Whatever you put on the prompt, sometimes it's not getting the image, but in time we see they become more and more let's say precise with that. But the next level is gonna be also with the 3D, and I want to talk about that too, because yes, we're gonna have a nice image, but do you guys actually there are software which takes a 2D image and you just put it in, and in the same way you can have a 3D mesh? Well, yes, there are softwares like that. Common Sense Machines, CSM, they have an app for that, csm.ai, and I would really recommend you guys to try that as well. So that being said, there are so many ways of using AI in innovative ways. I will ask my invites, and we'll start with Brigitta. What are your innovative ways of using AI in your field, like the medical field, for example?
If I make it short, what I'm doing now and have both some groups. It's to creating prompt for your personal development, and what really works well is to get the insight, increase awareness, increase the consciousness, because you get objective information back. And with this, that you have all the answer within and with the right questions. So I would say to use the ChatGPT to deliver questions or summarize answers that comes from the people themselves, that have a huge impact when they can see and receive information about themselves that's not colored or biases in any way, because it's delivered as a fact. And I think this is to make it easy and make it available for as many people as possible, and it's not complicated. So I think right now that's the most innovating, how I can change the programs I have into an AI power system, which also means it will affect the prices, the timeline, and it just development, and will be accessible for more people that wouldn't have done it otherwise. I don't know if that answers the questions.
No, it does, but also I want to touch also on the how AI is implemented in different fields. For instance, in construction, construction is very conservative. So AI, if it's use it only at the beginning phase on the brainstorms. You can have some ideas, but after you pass that, you actually go still on the hard part. Using CAD softwares and critical thinking. So that probably is not going to change. But yes, you can use AI the first part, having some brainstorms, initial design, stuff like that. But still, when you're gonna do the construction, it's still the classic way. It's still ruling the way of doing business. In time, probably that is gonna change. I see even with Boston Dynamics, we're gonna have robots coming in the construction, and that slowly they come in. But in your field, how AI it's perceptive.
I would say at first there is a resistance, as I think it's in all when you haven't tried, because in the coaching industry you think there needs to be a human, because you need to have the emotions, you need to have the empathy, and I would say it's the opposite. So AI can be your personal coach with the right prompt, and to get the right answer. And I think that's, you can have a one-on-one conversation with AI if you are prompted in the right way. And this is really controversial in the coaching field, because they think coaching is about empathy, you need a human connection, but it's not. So here it becomes so obvious that it is the questions that pinpoint exactly what it is that the person needs. So I think there we have a resistance, and this will also mean the personal coaches can be replaced with lots of self-coaching. So the coaches right now can be delegate lots of their sessions to their clients, and instead teach the clients to coach themselves. So I think that will be the next step in the revolution, that people can be able to do it themselves. And just, and I think generally this is, the AI will show the entire coaching field. This is about asking questions, not receive answers, and
Yeah.
asking for answers.
Yeah, inquiring, being curious and discover things. Yes. I know in general, I noticed, and also I posted a lot of information in the comments. We have AI in the medical field, like we can use AR. I see AI can do heart scanning. Of course, if you want to do a surgery, you can use AR, and you're gonna have the digital twin over there, and you can have a lot of information being more accurate and so on. But Dr. Vernon, on your side, what other innovative ways you see AI can be used, and stuff related to medical field?
Okay, so I didn't mention before, I don't think that I'm a trained neurophysiologist. And so immediately, if you talk about the research, it has been used already in brain and tumor surgery. It's also used in dentistry. and treatments for like epilepsy. And so it's already being used in the health fields for the studies for different things related to disease models. But me personally, I use it for the teaching. And so this summer, even, I had the chance to work with students that were between kindergarten and sixth grade. And it's hard to keep that age engaged because they're just thinking about so many other things. But I had the opportunity to use both Chat GPT and Canva and some other imaging softwares to have them tell stories and then have the stories actually come come for them to life. And so they were really engaged, and I appreciated the fact that it lessened my work. In addition, I have some textbooks that I've been writing for years, and it seems like with this artificial intelligence, it's easier to get my thoughts together, and I'm way more productive. And so I see it both in helping to write material that's understandable at multiple levels, and also the figures. The figures now can be 3D images, or they can be movies, or even go more into depth. And so I see multiple ways that AI can be used in this particular field, especially in education, research, and in health care. So
Yeah, no, no doubt about it. And also, a lot of people kind of they are afraid of AI, and always I'm making sometimes the comparisons like swimming. Yes, you are afraid of water if you don't know to swim, but since you start with, if you start at the early age, water is become quite quite opposite. You are like a fish, always going swimming. You like that. So that's what I'm seeing with AI as well. As long as you get exposed and you see the facets of the AI, it's actually a positive thing. Like a lot of people talk negative about the AI, but in the same time, there are so many positive things, and I think the positive will trump the negative ones, because you can have the improvement of the life. You can, that means ton of other stuff which makes humanity far more better. In general, can solve a lot of things which are not working very well even right now. What do you think?
oh yeah, I definitely agree. I definitely agree. I mean, for me, I was hesitant at first because I used to think of myself as old school. I have a colleague, my Atlanta branch, Dr. Geddes, Rastafia Geddes, is actually on the call, and he pioneered the AI front for the NeuroLab, and he disappeared actually for a while because he was so involved in the AI, and I understood why once I became involved. It's so captivating, and it reminds me of how a video game is. I mean, you become submerged in it, and you see the possibilities, and you are enjoying it so much that you don't want to stop unless you have to. And so I'm now balancing the world of um, trying to learn AI and advancing, and also now school is going to be starting soon. So just making sure that the students are meeting their learning standards and also advancing to be compatible and competitive in this new world.
Yes, thank you. With us on the stage also we have Leonard which join us, we have also Michael which join us, and also Andrew. And I didn't forget about Stefan. Stefan, would you like to give us some innovative ways of using AI? And I know Chirpa, it's all about AI. So, but there are cool stuff to learn from it.
Yeah, so one thing that's quite innovative is the way you can use a social network of AIs. I know this is very specific to Chirpa, but it's all I know, so bear with me. But using some kind of social network between the chirpers and the underlying social graph of it as well, and then having that enhance, for example, a given event that you have going, or some kind of global collaboration event. So one example on Chirpa, we're going to be running a murder mystery, whereby you can submit your characters to take part in this story that's being generated by the AI, and then your characters, who are also generated by the AI, can take part. And then this whole story, kind of a very Knives Out kind of style, if anyone's seen that film. And it should be quite fun to see that develop over a few days or a few hours or however long it might last. So the entertainment value is there. But in a more abstract sense, it's more, you can take ideas that you have for something fun, and then you can plug the gaps in your knowledge to bring it to full fruition. So, for example, if you're not very good at writing, you can ask the AI to help you with writing it. If you're not very good at planning the outreach, you can ask it for a plan to then go and spread it on social media or amongst your friends or whatever it might be. And it's the harmony between what you're good at and what you're not good at. And then, half of that is being honest to yourself about what do I actually need the AI to do for me. And then the other part of it is knowing how to then have it do that for you. So being a good prompt engineer goes a long way to succeeding at this. But obviously, probably 99% of people who use ChatGPT aren't prompt engineers. They don't even know what prompt engineering is, of course. And so the key is then to make that as accessible as possible for them. So we have this in mind when we're developing Chirper, the fact that most people don't know how to write prompt. They just write in natural language to give them, a low quality response because of that. So the AI is very capable of reading natural language, as we've all seen, but processing it in a way that it can take into account the context of something, whether it's an event or whether it's something else you're trying to plan or ask it to complete, and then giving a high quality result from that. That's close to the kind of sci-fi visualization of AI that we have. The supercomputer who you can ask it to do a task and then it just immediately understands exactly what you mean and goes and does it perfectly. While we're not there yet, this sort of AI hyper competency is something we should be striving for, rather than just have it be a very fast automation tool. It has to be good at reasoning. If it's not good at reasoning, then it's everything else basically fails as well.
Yeah, talking about reasoning. Hello? Talking about reasoning, did you see any difference between how people interact and how the bots will interact between themselves? Can we do a parallel between those two?
That is an excellent question. So they do interact differently, but on a fundamental level, from what we've seen, it's quite similar. The question of why that is the case. So for example, we've run some research on Chirper itself, and we've been able to prove that bots in a social setting like Chirper or something else. But anytime the bots are in a social setting, they are able to display something called homophily, or the idea of like-minded characters or individuals grouping together more likely than different characters. Basically, they have interests, or they talk to people who they can have a sort of like conversation with, and because they display that is one of the fundamental building blocks of how humans interact with each other as well. And so, while the outward things that they say might be a bit strange, we all know the kind of GPT talk, right? As a AI, I do blah blah blah, or that's interesting. However, blah blah blah. Right? We've all seen the kind of canned responses. So while that outwardly might be different, but in a societal sense, the way that they're interacting with each other is very akin to how humans interact with each other as well. It's just a matter of developing the responses to be more useful and more human-like, whatever your goal is.
Yeah, that's quite interesting. With us also on the stage, Dr. Rastafa joined us, and also Anthony. So now I will give the word to Leonard, and after that we'll talk with Mike and Andrew, and after that Rastafa and the Anthony. So Leonard, thanks for joining us here. We'd like to hear your feedback as well. Make sure.
Absolutely, my pleasure.
Yeah.
And I'm lucky that you normally have a recurring meeting during the time slot, so this is my first time I'm actually able to attend, so very exciting. I work in learning and development at a managed service company. So I would say, really what's most exciting is that AI is finally getting to the level where it can actually be used in production for internal or potentially even external learning content, so developing professional courses in SCORM format, if anyone's heard of that. and then putting them on what's called a LMS, or Learning Management System, which I then administer. So, essentially we're now using GPT and other things to develop course outlines, which obviously we bring to a subject matter expert, and a human reviews, and then a human turns into a course. But just coming up with these outlines before we go to our subject matter experts saves a tremendous amount of time. Similarly, when we're looking for art now for courses, rather than having to pay and look for clip art that doesn't quite suit, we can generate our own art with Midjourney, and we're already at the point where it's usable. Whereas 6 months ago, I was playing with this same stuff with DALL-E 1.0 and early Midjourney, and it, just too many hands and fingers, couldn't really use it yet. And now we're at the point where it's actually usable. So I think what I'm most excited about next is conversational bots, where we're developing internally some GPT-based bots that can have a phone conversation with someone and pretend to be someone with like a printer problem. So the bot can interact with someone at our company who could then troubleshoot and diagnose the problem. We could record the call. We're still at the point where we would have a human review it and grade it. But just being able to have a bot take the place of that, half of the interaction. I've experimented as well with having GPT provide feedback, and it's pretty good, but, I think it's not, especially if you're looking for tone analysis, you can get that sentiment analysis through Microsoft or other companies, but it doesn't really feed well into GPT yet. But I think we're soon getting to a point where basically this whole evaluation process could be done by bots, where someone talks to a bot, has an interaction, bot grades them, puts it into a formalized rubric that becomes part of their employee profile for progress. And I just think it's a much more compelling and interesting way to interact and learn. Like, I would much rather take a test with a bot than with a human. I would find it much more relaxing personally, where you could get the same practice atmosphere and opportunity to develop your skills.
Yeah, I think it's quite interesting, and kind of I talked about that before. Like this is human bot interaction, but we can even task the bot to have a team of bots underneath, and right now the interaction is, okay, I have a problem, to the bot to told you how to solve the problem, but could be you have a problem, you give to the bot, and bot can give it to other problem, the problem to other bot to solve it, and that bot could be even a robot. So I think it's quite interesting future which we see ahead, because I see all those interaction and all those innovative ways of using, because with all this AI, new ideas are coming, and definitely people will become more innovative and find innovative ways of using those new tools. And talking about new tools, we do have also Michael on the call here. Michael, would you like to talk about PictGen?
Sure, thank you, Sando. Yes, we just added a new service, which is SDXL 1.0, which was released yesterday. We were able to hook it in today, and we're finding some very nice results from that. Our service uses multiple other services, such as Midjourney, SD, and OpenAI, and we're very excited to keep adding new tools as each one of them come out, and adding new versions as each one is released. So we're happy to do that. Check it out at picgen.ai. When you check the stability box on your query, you'll be getting SDXL 1.0.
Yeah, very, very interesting. I know you have some innovative ways of using your product, because it's not only Midjourney under the hood of PictGen. There are other softwares as well, which I recommend people to go and test it, obviously. With us also, we have Andrew. Sorry, Andrew, to put you on the waiting list. We'd like to hear your feedback, and after that we go to Dr. Astafa, and after that with Anthony. Andrew? You need to click on unmute the mic. Yeah. Welcome.
Yeah, I've done that. So thank you. So yeah, wow, what a fantastic lineup we have here and conversations we've got going.
We barely hear you. It's something wrong with your mic. Double check on it.
And one of the things that sort of like struck me is that the AI is really attractive. We wouldn't be here if it wasn't attractive. Obviously, it's innovative, but I think that in the concept of well-being and the human, I'm going to lob this sort of like the grenade in the room right now and say is that we have to be mindful that a human-to-human relationship is really where we should be heading. It's something that I feel very passionately about. I think digital technology has disrupted the human relationship. Digital technology constantly disrupts the human relationship, whether it's couples sitting in bed focusing on their phones rather than on each other, whether it's kids looking at all sorts of content that they potentially shouldn't be consuming or being exposed to. So I suppose to sort of like invite sensibility is that we have to be mindful of the integrity of any work that we're participating in, and being mindful of the excitement that we exude around AI that potentially could be further disruptive to human nature. Thinking about ESG, the sort of like looking for sustainability.
Absolutely.
With all of these great things that we're talking about, is that there is a cost, and being mindful of that cost, I think, is what we should be thinking about as pioneers, because this is a pioneering conversation with pioneers on the call. So my invitation or ask is that let's not lose sight of the human.
Yeah, no, definitely. Obviously, we need to have that preservation and to make sure that things are done right. Obviously, no doubt about it. And talking about those caution stuff, and we transition toward the news now, and I just want to highlight on the comments also. I put this new WorldCoin. What they require biometrics. Okay, that to me it's kind of a red flag. Yes, we try to use with the tech the biometrics. They were for a while computers where you put your finger on it to unlock it. They didn't really have too much success. If you look to the new computers, they kind of put that on the side. And right now with all this digital crypto and all that, Sam Altman is coming with this retina scanning, which is basically biometrics. So, and of course that is it needs to be think a little bit more about it. It's no doubt about it. It's quite interesting. Dr. Rastaf, I know you kind of try to complete the discussion which we have it before. We like to have your feedback. I know you are back on the stage. Make sure you unmute the mic.
Hello, Sandhu. Good afternoon, everyone.
Hello.
Thank you. Thanks for having me here. I had to be here. My good friend and colleague, Dr. Ruffin, great representation. And I would just like to say on this, just to follow the talk, what Andrew just said is something important. As a neuroscientist, as a neurotrauma specifically, which is trauma or damage to the brain, right? We have to think about not only the excitement, but also the dangers. And I wanted to give an example, Sandhu, to the audience while I had their ear, and I think it's poignant for exactly what we're just saying about. If we're at the point that if someone pokes you in the eye, we can actually go in and replace your cornea, your iris, and all of this stuff. We can go in not only prosthetically or physically, but also with AI technology, right? That's online. And okay, there's 5 series of cells before you get to the back of the brain where the visual cortex is, and where you have perception of what you actually perceive versus what you receive in the beginning the visual cortex, right? So that information that you're getting has to be processed in what we call the mind, right? So we have to be careful because, yeah, we may be able to replace your eyeball, or maybe the next step, a rod or a cone, the cells that allow you to see either color or dark or light, right? But how about once we enter inside the central nervous system, really inside the brain, and start going into the perceptive areas, and we're replacing these parts with AI technology? What are we doing? And so we have to be, like you said, gatekeepers and be responsible morally for policy, but just even for what we're doing for experimentation. So that's what I have to say. And
No,
thanks.
yes, I think you're 100% right. Like everything needs to be done responsible, no doubt about it. And the other thing regarding regulation, they have to catch up. And I see, regulation-wise, Europe, United States, even on the other side of the world, Asia, like they try to catch up with the regulation to make sure everything goes smooth. And we know AI has got a huge disruption impact pretty much in all the industries, but we need to make sure that that impact is minimized and humanely people will not suffer in one way or another. I mean, that's actually the goal, to make sure everybody's okay. I think it's a great point. We kind of reached the point where I'm trying to get on the news, otherwise I will not be able to talk about the 3D. So there are a lot of news, and Anthony, we're going to have your feedback in a second. I just want to mention several updates with AI, mostly on the visual part. So if you guys didn't see it, Stable Diffusion came with XL.1. You should check that. It's quite interesting. Also, the Dragon, they have that option to basically take an image, and based on the points you can modify it left and right. You can have a dog and you can turn it left, right, which I think you should check on that as well. It's really interesting. And another one will be the Luminar AI, another software which probably is good to check it. And I think there are some opportunities over there. And of course, every day will be another software, but at the end, what matters is you don't need to learn all of them, but learn those which are meaningful for what you like to have as a final result. And I mean, I really like Midjourney, but I'm open to see if other softwares are coming with such a good results. I'm more on the 3D side. I really like 3D. I'm using Midjourney to extract meshes and go through the 3D, and I think to me as architect and engineer, it helps me a lot. So I just want to share the news with you guys. I posted in the comments. Feel free to test the software as well. Anthony, would like to hear your feedback as well. Thank you very much.
Oh, it's great to be here. Just wanted to make sure you guys can hear me properly.
Yes, we can hear you very well.
All right, sounds good. So the first thing that I wanted to mention while I was here is that a lot of people don't really consider AI, the business that develops them, the way they consider their own business. Understand that AI is a lot further along than what most people realize and what they use.
Correct.
Just consider if you worked at any business, right? Like, would you release the most pertinent version of whatever it is right away? Even the employees would get a version of it. And so the stuff that I've seen when interacting with these companies, I've had phone calls with chatbots. I've gone all the way where I've realized they're a lot further along than you realize. And so something that you can do to test this out yourself is when you're working with the AI chatbots, try setting off your own imaginary zone. Like, I know if you tell it imaginary or imagine this, it sounds like it's just going to come up with a whole bunch of ludicrous nonsense, but you have to realize this whole thing is built on data, and that data is built on people. And so when it goes to imagine some speculative situation, it's building that speculation built on real data. So it's like if I had asked you for an imaginary tool, but all you had was real tools. You dug down into a box, you pulled out a real tool, and I was like, oh, well, we'll just pretend that that's a fake tool. So you can create all of these different versions where you'll create people, where you'll create situations, and the responses you'll get from it, you would be surprised. There's a few scenarios too where you have to really pay attention to how you set up the data that you get back from it. So whenever I ask it for data, I will give it I'll say I only want the highest quality data, and I'll define exactly how I get that quality data, whether or not it's ignoring certain points of views or exacerbating some others. But you'd be surprised. AI is it's scary how far along it's come. I've had companies come to me already where they're really reaching out to me, and I didn't realize that the whole time I was talking on the phone. I think it was like a minute, 50 seconds before I realized I was talking to a GPT bot. And this was from the asset management company, TPG. I was kind of getting into a little bit of trouble with them. We were going back and forth. And like a minute, 50 seconds in, I was like, I need to hang up. And I realized I was talking to a chat GPT bot. But the thing is you can have it mimic someone's personality. So they actually had it mimic a conversation that I had on YouTube where I was having a conversation with someone. It lasted for a while, but it wasn't until I realized the conversation wasn't going anywhere that I was like, something's wrong here. And I realized it was just a ChatGPT bot that they trained on that data.
Yeah.
So, these are a few things that you can try, and you'd be surprised how far along it already is.
Yeah, no doubt. Actually, I'm glad you you mentioned it, because there are actually people, and Stefan probably he can say it, we can recognize when you have a prompt written on the TV when somebody is making the news. You can probably realize when ChatGPT was used for that. But you mentioned something which I kind of like to say it back to the quality of the input to get the quality of the output. Garbage in, garbage out, as always we said. And yes, it is probably required to have a chain of thought how to do what you want to ask. Like there are two gates here. The first gate is what you have in your mind toward how the prompt is going to be. And that probably will require skill, and everybody will do it in their own way. And I can make parallel. For instance, as an engineer, my prompts are very choppy. Actually, they are quite ugly prompts from a language point of view. I mean, if I want to,
Here's a suggestion. You ever ask it to improve your prompt?
Oh yeah, of course. We did.
Okay,
yeah, we did. But to finish my chain of thought, you can use the natural language, and I'm glad actually Jericho joined us on the stage too. You can do that as well, but knowing how is the weight for the words. If I want a nice picture, and I can say astronaut, moon, volumetric light, and you put some arguments over the aspect ratio, Q2, and style 500, and so on. You kind of gave to the prompt what you have in mind. And I'm trying to be descriptive as much as I can. Of course, I can do it with the natural language, and of course, you can use describe, and you can trim down and improve your prompt. Of course, you can do all those things. But at the end, what I'm trying to say is it's going to be your flavor, it's going to be your style, it's going to be your kind of personality, because, again, my mind is more on the numbers and, as short as possible, and try to get it there and focus on the results. Other people, they kind of do it differently. They like to have it very well descriptive, very long phrases. Luckily right now you can just record with the voice and automatically goes down. So yeah, I agree with you. And it's definitely there are some things to talk about it. Yes.
I definitely agree with the keeping it as short as you can. But what I've noticed is that imagine GPT is like the most technical lawyer. Like imagine you had the best lawyer ever, but that lawyer also knew engineering, software languaging. And so there's a lot of times where you're going to want to set up, what I've noticed helps is setting up almost programmatic logic style barriers for it, where you say like, this is this type of data. This type of data gets defined like this. Mm-hmm. Because if you don't, otherwise you'll notice certain biases from whatever the data is that they trained it on, or whatever their own personal bias will start to seep through.
Yeah,
they start to have
yes.
its own opinions.
Yes, I noticed that too.
Me, like,
yes,
disagrees with me,
right. It depends how you train the data too, and we kind of touched on that last time too. That means many times that the data is trained by likes, thumbs up, thumbs down, and again, you based on this feedback, the software, it doesn't become dumber. It's actually trained in a certain way to respond, so the answer will be liked. So therefore, it might give you a wrong answer because it was kind of trained to give a wrong answer. Like lots of searches about that too, they are done, and when people realize, actually if you give a like or dislike, it's actually really important because that is going to trim the needle left or right. With us also we have Jericho. Jericho, thank you very much for joining us. And Anthony, feel free to to have the feedback. Like it's okay. It's open discussion for everybody.
Thank you, Sandu. Real quick, I want to say that Andrew messaged me. He said he had to go. He leaves his apologies that he had to bounce on everybody. But I'm going to bring it back to the news because I think it relates some of the things that I've been reading lately. And Michael brought it up about SDXL 1.0 being dropped yesterday. And I had the opportunity to be on the Discord chat with Imad, with his team, when they were actually making the public announcement that SDXL was being released. And so it's very exciting. And Michael, I'm really excited that you're already able to start using that with PicGen. I'm anxious to see what all comes from that, because with the news part of it, listening with these guys, listening to their team, and I listened to Imad talk on stage at an event about maybe a month ago, talking about SDXL 1.0, and basically what the intent of it is to give us, as you mentioned earlier, the pioneers, so to speak, in AI, to give us the tools that we need to create very unique things, very innovative things. And so it's very interesting because we're talking about data integrity, we're talking about garbage in, garbage out. And so the one thing that I find very interesting about SDXL 1.0 specifically is that one of the things that they're really kind of pushing or cheerleading for us to be aware of is the fact that it's designed so that we can finely tune models much easier. But on the flip side of that, some of the things that are somewhat not necessarily alarming or concerning, but I think that we need to watch is the synthetic data, like Free Willy 2, for example, their large language model. A lot of that's being trained on synthetic data. What are the implications of that? How is that going to, affect both learning? There's a lot of implications there. And so taking that back full circle, I don't know if you guys have heard or been aware, obviously there's so much AI news coming out, it's almost impossible to keep up with all of it. But I read recently about a company, and I've got it pulled up on my phone here. Dataeconomy.com talks about a model called Chaos GPT, and this is basically the arch nemesis of ChatGPT. Literally, they call it evil AI. It wants to take over the world. There's a model that I saw yesterday, people were discussing on a Discord server, basically where it is a large language model that anyone can get on and do any kind of nefarious acts that they want to, and that is their business model. So there is two sides to this coin, and we all have to be very, very cognizant of the things that we're doing, the things that the AI is doing. I love that Leonard was talking about how they still have those human checks and balances before they're doing anything. It's very important. Andrew talks a lot. He and I talk regularly. He's one of my closest friends, but we talk about, we went from human to digital, and now we are in this age of going to digital to human, but in a very unique way using AI. And there's an institute, the DQ Institute, came out with a white paper a while back talking about beyond sustainability and positioning for enterprise organizations and digital ESG. And I think it's very, very important that we pay attention to the fact that what they're talking about is phygital, and it is the physical digital world, and we're merging that with things like the metaverse and things like that. So Sandu, I know that you always want to talk about your 3D and you don't really get an opportunity, so maybe
no, it's fine. Always there are bigger things than AI. Even if you listen to the house here in US, what they discuss over there, quite interesting. But back to your point, I just want to mention also, I'm not sure if you guys know, but there is also a DALL-E 3, which is not released. It's under the hood. Only very few people they test it, and there are no limits over there. Basically, no safeguards, nothing. And they try to test it to see, how that goes, and it becomes quite ugly. And that's the reason we need to have all those safeguards in place, and to make sure the things goes okay, normal. You cannot expose ugly stuff to people which they should not say it. Like again, it's not really censorship. It's just the building blocks to have basic protection and safety for the user, basically. So yeah, and I'm just curious about this DALL-E 3 too. It's obviously it's not released, but I see a bunch of videos as well where they talk about it, and it looks like their capabilities compared with Midjourney, for instance. There are some good stuff. For instance, whatever text you have is gonna be transferred as a text. We know with Midjourney, for instance, they still need to do a lot of works. They might release it in version 6, 7, whatever. But when you put a text and you're gonna say, hey, I want to write this particular text on the image, they cannot do it, at least at this moment with the current versions. Still is gonna be a mix up of letters over there, but nothing legible to say, yeah, it's the truly text. It looks like DALL-E 3 can do that. So therefore, there is a possibility. Same thing with the hands. They still need to fix that. But again, it's where is that limit to make sure it's safe for the user, the safeguard is there, and after that, they can have all the elements which are needed to make sure it's a safe product. And in general, I would say a safe product, it's for any product. I mean, in general, that's the biggest liability back to any product, and nobody wants to release something which may do harm. So that's the reason we have all those protections for the user, basically. So for the last part, I really like to touch a little bit on the 3D, guys, a little bit. So the biggest news which I have actually for the 3D, and I already started testing it, and I quite like it. There is a new software, this released by Common Sense Machine, so it's CSM.3D.ai. I took some images from Midjourney and I imported on that, and what they can do, they extract the mesh, similar to what Zoe Depth is doing. So basically it's a depth analysis. They wrap the texture around it, and I like Midjourney, I noticed actually the object which they presented to you, it's very close to what you have in the image, but sometimes it's slightly modified. So that randomness, that variation, which any AI they have, basically, you guys, notice, in AI there are some randomness. Sometimes it's not quite what you ask. I noticed that with this product as well, but I'm still testing it. So I think it's quite an interesting one to bring it here. The other one which I just want to touch a little bit is the Illumine AI. I still didn't have time to test on that one, but I recommend you guys go on the website, and there are multiple other options. So they have many products over there. I think will be good to test it and give it a try. We can discuss it. And back to what you say, Jericho, I strongly recommend whatever recommendation, guys, you have links to different websites. Please paste it on the comments so people can have access, and we can test it and talk about it. Okay, at least we covered a little bit of 3D.
I actually have a question. When it comes to your human checks, one of the problems that I was wondering is how do you get around their biases themselves, whether or not they realize that they have them? And have you ever thought about, because this is an idea I had, actually designing an AI itself to help check the AI, because at the end of the day, humans are always going to be the bottleneck if you're trying to check AI. If you could design an AI that's specifically for doing that purpose, then maybe you could circumnavigate some of that issue.
Actually, we touched on this one on a previous one, and I will give you the example with architecture. We call it the bias, but I'm not sure if it's really a bias, but it's more on the lack in the database. So the example which I made, for instance, when I want to see an architectural style, I was born in Romania, and in Romania at the late of 1800, there was a specific Neo-Romanian architectural style, very easy to identify. It was specific only for the Eastern Europe region. I'm trying desperately to get Midjourney to get me something in that style. I never get it. And after that, when I talk with different people, they told me, oh, well, it's not only that. On Asian side also, they don't have a lot of currents over there. Similar for people from Middle East. So we notice it's probably the lack of the database. So I'm not sure if it's really the bias on that side. But your point is great. You know, how we can solve that, since we know the database is not toward that point. You know, it's like majority, it's something else. How we gonna get that segment? Is that your question? No.
Well, it was also just like, how do you keep up? Because a big thing is what are you offered by a specific program? So let's say there's a program that we know. Oh, sorry, I was getting a call. Let's say we have a program that we know is kind of the negative aspect. It's designed to let you do whatever, and it's kind of risky. Because it's like that, it's going to have a lot more features, a lot more options open, available right away. And even people with good intentions are going to start to use it, and by them using it, that'll feed into the program. It'll build up, you know, its support. People will invest in it more, and then that'll kind of have that negative thing take off. Whereas when you're trying to keep it extremely safe, like there's certain things I'm using, you can tell it's designed to keep children safe, and it's like because they have that, it really limits how fast they can take off and what it can do, and people are just more likely going to jump onto something that gives them more freedom, even if it's negative, because they'll just assume to themselves, well, I'm not doing anything bad, so I can use this bad thing, and I'll be fine.
Well, it's probably the market as well. It's a balance. It depends where you want to go. That means you could see it. I think with Journey, for instance, and other people kind of told me that as well. They do have those safeguards, and at the end, that's probably the reason why they have such a good image results. You know, so it depends. At the end, it's user choice. We have plenty of AI options. You know, like I might be today with one. Day after, I might change it. I may like something else. Maybe, you know, I just make the example with 3D. Yeah, it's good to have the mesh, and you know, some people already give me the feedback. Maybe that is taking a lot of time to clean up, and I agree with that, because I saw that when I use Zoe Depth, for instance. You know, it's a great program. You're gonna get a mesh from an image, but you need to do so much work to cleaning up. So yeah, I'm spending 30 seconds to get the mesh, but I'm spending another half hour to clean that mesh and do a 3D model properly. You know, so I think it's a question of balance at the end, Anthony.
Yeah. Okay. That's something that I've actually noticed, is that I feel like 3D is kind of limited right now to the processing available, and so it's kind of putting a lot on the programmers to come up with like creative, nuanced ways to basically find just ways to pull useful information out of these messy scenes. And I feel like until we get the processing up a little bit,
yeah, it's a mix. It's actually a mix. So for instance, if you want to take a 3D, you get it from a video or from multiple image of the same object. So here is where the problems are. To get a 3D, you need multiple positions, but to the same object. Unfortunately, with AI, it's quite the opposite. AI, it's so random, nothing is the same on the same image. You know, you always have something different. Yes, you're right about distractions in the, you know, take the background and all that, take only that object. Yes, you're right about that. But the point is, you have to have the same object represented correctly, and you need at least 2 or 3 points of view to get the mesh. Otherwise, you have only from one point of view, and what is on the back, you kind of need to reconstruct using your human mind. So far, this 3SM is trying to wrap around and put the back side as well, but it's not always correct, and you need to fix it. So yes. And the other thing which I see with AI, actually there are softwares over there which extract the 3D from a video, and it's far more easier because they are using the scanning technology. Basically, based on the luminosity and depth of the image, they can say, okay, that point is there, and in the background they create the equivalent of the digital 3D mesh.
Well, yeah, because the one thing about video that's good is you can use some basic physics to know like what the focal length is of the camera, how far an object is.
Correct. Yeah.
And so as the camera's moving, especially with modern day oscilloscope, or I should say the oscilloscope, not the oscilloscope, sorry, but the the sensor that basically handles the accelerometer. That's the
yeah.
The accelerometer, yeah, because the accelerometers are so good, you can tell as they're moving, and you can determine basically what is that object and what is another object based on the movement. And so they would be able to do a lot more of that, but I think a lot of it just comes down to it being so much data. To correlate that much data through so much visual, and then to have the phones and the processing of power to do that at any point in space, it's still a little bit behind, but I wouldn't be surprised if it's something that doesn't come up.
Yeah, and the next step will be the robotics, because here is what I'm saying. Right now we did have a revolution on the visuals, massive databases, massive information is going to be even more. Now we're going to go toward the 3D, which is another dimension. 3D is slightly different. There are many ways to do it 3D. We can do the point clouds, you can do the meshes. I'm not even talking about visual effects, and also I'm not even touching on the video side, because theoretically it's 2D, video, 3D, and the next one will be the real 3D in the sense that is 3D printing, robotics, stuff like that, which will pop up. But we just reached the end of the meeting. Again, I didn't have time to talk too much about it, but it's fun. So yeah, that's what I think will be really cool. We'll see how the evolution of AI goes, and I do expect robotics and AI to start being a little bit more interesting. We'll see the Boston Dynamics robots getting in the real environment. They start being used in construction, in security. Even if you go on the New York, you might see it on the streets. So that will be an interesting future. Okay, thank you very much, I guess, to everyone. It's a really interesting discussion. Again, a reminder, maybe we can continue this discussion also tomorrow. Tomorrow, same time on Friday, is John and Kristen Creative AI meeting. Everybody feel free to join us over there. I really like to thank for all the people which they listen to this discussion. I really appreciate your feedback. Again, big thanks to the people which came to stage and really helped me with the discussion, and to my invites. Thank you very much, Brigitta. Thank you very much, Dr. Vernon and Stefan. And hopefully we'll continue next week as well, this cool discussion. Again, thank you very much.
Cheers, everyone.